Hi guys, this is Gisell Munoz, relationship coach for women, and today I have Lesley Banton, who is a parenting and leadership disruptor. Thank you so much, Lesley, for being here. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Amazing. So, Lesley works with parents who are willing to have the thought around what they believe parenting to be disrupted, to find results and solutions, and fully see themselves for the first time. They personalize the pressure of parenting and empower with a leadership mindset. The ending of self shaming, disconnection, and the acceptance of being all of who they were and are meant to be. Lesley works with parents on a one on one private coaching. I'm glad to have you here, Lesley.
Thank you. Thank you.
I have the first question. So, what is the difference between how parenting has been and what you do as a parenting coach?
So parenting, used to be that disciplinarian, controlling, governed by generational rules of children should be seen and not heard. You
Hmm.
can't express your emotions. You can't have temper tantrums. And, a long list of subconscious rules that we have that are generations old that never really applied then and definitely don't apply now. And so where I come from with the parenting disruption that I do
Hmm.
with some great parents, sorry, is that we adopt a leadership mindset, and that's by challenging everything we thought was true
Mm.
and challenging everything that we have been told, we've been conditioned to do,
Hmm.
and also allow them to become more aware of what's driving them. So in parenting, and when you become a parent, everything is magnified and amplified by your child, and there's many triggers. So we look at what are those triggers, and what's the response, what's the reaction, why, what is the belief behind that. So we dig really deep into the mindset of the parent and how the mind is working and why,
Mm.
and is that true to who they believe they are.
Mm.
Because there's a lot of things running in the background of our minds that we're not aware of, and we don't have a conscious awareness that we're doing it, saying it, being it. And our conscious mind is telling us one thing, and our subconscious is navigating us in a different way. So until we bring the awareness of both together, the parents that I work with aren't fully aware of what they're creating in their child, because that behavior is then passed on and creates cycles and beliefs in the child. So it's peeling back with the adults, then
Mm.
looking at the leadership mindset of, where's my thinking at, what's that belief that's just popped out of my head, out of my head, out of my mouth, um, and looking at how you can keep your mindset on a positive focus whilst experiencing everything and being the observer of yourself and trying to get yourself to that next level. And then by doing that, you then see your child differently. And also, so then what the next step to that is, once we've kind of peeled back some layers on the parents, I also ask them to describe their child. We look at the child's behavior, we look at the child's words, their actions. We look at, I look at the parents' disc energy, the child's disc energy, and we get really curious about that. So, you might have a high I mum with a high C child, which is, the high I mum's driven by fun and wants to be out there, and the child wants to be indoors, quiet, needs to know all the steps, needs lots of reassurance. And that there's a clash happening there, and unless we bring awareness to what each of the parent needs and the child needs, and why the parent sees the child the way the parent sees the child, we can't create the change. So we in looking deeper,
Mm.
peeling back the layers and creating that leadership mindset of what I'm seeing isn't actually what's happening. That saying about, we only see the world as we are, not
Mm.
as it is. And it's so true in parenting, because we look at our children, and yes, we come from heart. This isn't about taking the heart out of parenting. It's
Mm.
taking emotional spark, that emotional reaction, and that the triggering out of parenting. That's what leadership does, is it takes that trigger out of parenting.
This is so good because the what you were telling me about this is a lot of things comes up in my mind. So, for example, the basic one is like, yeah, kids learn by example, and but as well, we as parents we miss out. They are the unique them. Kids are them. They are not us. And sometimes we as parents we believe that the kids need to know it all. Like um, we believe like uh, they need to rush to go to school. They need to rush to do this. They need to rush in life because we have been rushing in life, and it's like we rush kids to go to school. It's like a hurry, hurry, and kids are kids. They don't know what we know related
Yeah.
to our life, and they don't know the experiences what we had or what happened in our childhood or anything. They just know what they know related to their environment.
However, I love what you've just said around that children don't know what the adults have experienced, and no, should they, because children are on their own journey. Yet what happens is we carry those experiences ourselves as adults from childhood through. Then when we become parents, our children trigger us, and those experiences from our childhood pops out and is projected all over the children. Unless they're aware that that's what's happening, that's why that's triggered. You know, if we trace back most trigger points, it is happened or has happened. Sorry, that's really bad English. Has happened in those imprint years 1 to 7, and we carry them forward, and then it's spewed out all over the children, and then there's the cycles that started to be created, and they're replicating almost the same experiences without consciously knowing it. And that's the gap. You know, I work with a lot of parents that go, oh, I don't want to do that, I never want to do what I experienced, and they go out of their way to make sure that they don't do that, but they say it, and the words are imprinted. There's the subcontext, there's the hidden meaning behind what's happening that the children take on board. So it's those experiences again that we peel back and go, okay, what do we need to look at there, and is that true about your child now? Yeah,
It's so good to know this information, because personally it's like some kids triggers me, like whatever behavior it is, it's like oh. But sincerely it's like I don't have kids, so I'm fine, and they are not my kids. But I know in the future time when I wanted to have kids, I have to face those triggers, because I'm aware.
yes,
Me as a coach, I'm aware about my own triggers, and I'm aware where like okay, that triggers me, but anyway I need a parenting coach who can help me out. Not because I am a coach and have everything solved. No, I am a specific coach, but for that is like I prefer to receive the help from other coaches, like you, for example, you as a parenting coach.
and again, just to follow what you've just said, that's exactly what happens, is that you get triggered by the behavior. And so what we do is we get really curious about the behavior, because the behavior for the child is an outwards experience and projection of what's going on inside them that they don't understand or know. They're just projecting it out. So it could be that they're trying to regulate themselves. There could be, you know, sometimes in the journey we've discovered that the child might have a sensory impairment, or they might be overloaded with sensory experiences, and that's what the behavior is about. It's not necessarily them being, I'm going to use the bad, you know, because there's no, you know, it's only what you make that behavior mean. And so what we do, we work with the parents to get curious about that. And, you know, what is that about, you know, as a reflection of the parent's behavior and language and trying to contain the child? Or is that about the child just saying, help me, I'm not sure what's going on for me? Or help, something's been missed, and I need something more than your normal neurotypical child. I need something more. But the child doesn't know that. It might also be about their emotions, you know. mum and dad might not have had their emotions handled right as a child, so therefore when their child comes along, the child, you know, they just want to express, you know, they're free, beautiful spirits, but again, that projection onto the child. And then also in amongst all that is the mislabeling of the emotions and the feelings. So for example, and I've used this before, you know, one beautiful lady that I was working with shared with me that she created this play date for her child, and this other child didn't turn up, so her son acted out and, you know, ran off over the park, and she ran after him, chastised him, and she's like, oh, I feel really, you know, because his friend didn't turn up, but his behavior needed disciplining. And so I challenged her, well, did it need, and I'm not saying that running off in a park is safe, it's not. However, that's a conversation, not, I believe it's a conversation, not something to be shamed about. We then had a conversation about, well, could it have been that that child in that moment felt rejected? Could it be that that child in that moment felt not good enough for his friend to come along and play? So was his behavior bad, or was his behavior a true expression of his emotions and his feelings and the meaning that he gave to that moment about his friend not being there? So not only is he being told that his rejection is naughty, you know, that if it was the feeling of rejection, so not only is he being told that that's naughty, or whatever word you want to put to it, he's then going to navigate through life feeling that if he ever feels rejected, that he can't show that, because he's then going to get shamed and told off for it. So with the leadership mindset, it ups the curiosity. It takes away that personal charge and go, oh, that's curious. Why is he doing that? What does he need in this moment to make that okay? And then what conversation do we need to have around safety and running off in a park? And I'm not saying that there's no behavior out there that doesn't need discipline and addressing, but it's about what's appropriate, and is it a projection of your stuff, or is it true to what's going on around you?
Yeah, so good. And how important it is for us to create change, like we as a parents, how important it is to create change for raising our kids and children.
Wow. Well, as coaches, we know it's so important to create change, especially when we identify an area that limits you or stops you from reaching your potential. So the importance is, you know, being able to peel back the layers and see yourself for the first time is amazing, you know, especially when you've navigated the world going, oh, I don't fit, or you've always struggled to kind of reach your own potential. So by creating that change in you, the knock-on effect is you become the change. And, you know, to coin that phrase, be the change that you want to see in the world. By becoming change, you automatically help those around you change, because they have to learn to navigate you as well. And then you can nurture them and help them see what may be holding them back, or find another way that works best for them. So the change helps generations. It also helps, you know, working with coaches like ourselves, it also helps with a more positive focus in the mind. And you know, it's so when you find yourself in that anxious state or depressed state, you've got the tools to be the observer of self and go, okay, what do I now need to do to help myself out of this? Who do I now need to contact? Who do I now need to be? And so by giving those tools to your children, because by changing yourself, you pass them on to your children by default. You give them those tools, and you help them create their own thinking, become more and more aware of their own thinking. And the fact that they have full control over what's going on in here. You know, there's that, unless you know that, there's a lot of people that navigate through what their lives going, well, nothing's going to change. I can't change. That's very, you know, disempowering. But they don't know that they can. They don't know that it's all this subconscious stuff going on that we can change, and we can create the destiny we want. We can, you know, reconnect with all those resources that we were born with, and we can reach the potential that we never, well, we always thought we could, but didn't think we had the tools to. So it's you know, it's deeper than that, and that's probably like the simplified version, but it helps that generational change. It helps empower the next generation as well.
Yeah, because
Helps empower
yeah,
those
because
around.
what I notice is we repeat what our parents told us or we saw, and from the
Yeah,
as a parents, and from the uh, well, we as coaches we know certain behaviors are not quite right, and it's like we need to ask for help, and it's so important to ask for help. And from
yeah,
the creating change in ourselves is out is a, like a ripple effect for our kids as well, and
yeah.
they change as well. It's not, I don't know how to say it like I not properly in English, but it is about when we are different, they don't have the same behavior they had been
Mhm.
having before, and they change. So every time when we change as a parents, children change as well.
Yes, absolutely they do. And it gives them permission to. And it also shows them and demonstrates that there's always another level, there's always a different way of seeing things. There's compassion, there's empathy, there's curiosity. There's so much more that you pass on when you create the change.
It's, what I noticed personally is self-acceptance. So personally, I have worked a lot. Being a coach, I have to work in myself first to create change for others. And yeah, it's for me from self-acceptance.
Hmm.
My friends' kids has changed as well in a positive way. And
Yes.
it's
Yeah.
so if I'm accepting myself, it's like I accept everybody, and for them they accept themselves too. And there is not the same behavior how it was in the past. It's different. It's totally
Yeah.
different. We can have conversation in the table and so
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. That self-acceptance is key, because we send, you know, I'm not, you saying you or we is a generalized blanket statement, obviously, but there's a lot of people out there that navigate childhood and not know who they are,
on. Okay.
and they're not given the right tools, and you know, they're not, um they don't feel like they fit in because they're not being the same as those around them, so they never really accept who they are because they don't know who they are. And by taking the journey, and you know, I'm working with an amazing older guy right now who has never fitted in, and he's now discovered why he didn't fit in.
Mm,
And had that been discovered in his childhood, he would have had a lot more tools and awareness
mm,
and been able to accept himself. Whereas he's self-shamed him, you know, he's been in self-shaming for the best part of 4 decades. So we're now parenting, he's parenting himself and his inner child that he's shamed all these years. And we're now moving through to a point where he fully accepts himself. And there's been tears, and there's been emotions, and there's been elation, and there's been a bit of anger. There's been all of that, but yet he's at this beautiful place right now of accepting all of who he is, and knowing he's navigated life the best way he could with what he had. And now he's got more tools to be able to tap even deeper into the potential that he knows is within him, because he understands himself more and he fully accepts all of who he is.
mm.
That's, you know, that's just a small example of self-acceptance and the journey of it.
Yes. I have another question, and how the person, how parents we can realize about self shame, like the case you were sharing with us.
Sorry, can you say that again?
How can we, how, for example, yeah, we are coaches, but we parents who don't know anything about coaching, and we notice certain behaviors in our kids, and but how we can notice in ourselves that the self shame,
So
like if
in
it,
self, in
Okay.
self is, you know, it's that internal dialogue where you're almost telling yourself off. Oh, you shouldn't have done that. You didn't do that right. You should have said this. Or, you might even catch yourself saying that you're not good enough. You're not lovable enough. The universal fears, you might even hear those, which is great because that's then great awareness. But if, it's that anger within yourself, that feeling like all of a sudden you just want to go and cry because you feel shame and you don't know why, that's the internal language that you're saying to yourself about that situation. When you don't feel like you did, and you feel like you didn't handle that situation as well as you could, there's self-shaming. And although you're not speaking the words outwardly, it's what's going on. They say there's something like 7 different kind of conversation voices going on inside our head that at any one time. And it's one of those voices. You could have even had the most amazing experience, but be one of those voices that will find a way to say that wasn't good enough. And that's the self-shaming. Or you might keep reflecting on a situation in the past where you weren't given the support or understanding that you felt that you should have. So you shame yourself for not being good enough in that moment, and you keep reflecting to the past. And so you've not only experienced that self-shaming, then you've carried it through to this moment, and as an adult, you're self-shaming. And there's no need for it. There's it's healing, it's exploring that, it's getting curious about that. So if you catch yourself doing that, it's worth a conversation with somebody. It's worth reaching out to somebody that you know and trust, or even finding a coach to help you navigate, where did that come from? What's that created in my life? What's that stopped me from doing? Now knowing that, what can I now do? And what can I insert instead of the self-shaming? And it's that celebration, and it's that acceptance. And you might notice it in your child. Your child might be doing something or might have done something, and they kind of like, their body will tell you that they want to hide from the world and they feel a bit of shame. So it's having that conversation with them. What's going on for you right now? And one of the, for children to start gaining awareness, and even adults, what I suggest to do is just to sit in a room of silence for 10-15 seconds and notice the words you hear.
That's really good.
And that's the voice, that's the inner dialogue, that's the limiting beliefs coming through. And that's what you're not aware of if you're not conscious to it. And it's, for me, has worked many, many times with children. Children are awesome at it. They're like, oh yeah, and there was a cartoon, and then the Batman, and there's this and that. And then there was this voice that says, why am I here? What am I doing? The way, I just love the way children just like express it. And it's just, yeah. And you know what? That's the voice we're going to try and listen to a little bit more. That's the voice that we need to start getting friendly with and letting it know it's safe and it's okay. And it's okay that it's curious about the world, but it doesn't need to tell you off all the time. Again, so, sorry?
I have another question for you. It's like, how parents of anybody who is watching this video and know somebody who has kids and has seen a certain behavior, how we can become better parents? Or do you have any advice how we can recognize something in ourselves or the behavior in our children, how you mentioned before, like a shoulders down, looking under? Do you have any advices like how we can first recognize our behaviors, and the second is how we can be better parents?
Okay, so as you know, there's many layers and there's many first steps that we can start to take. And obviously the very first step is that they're listening to this video. They've got curious about, I wonder what that person can offer. I wonder what that conversation that you're putting up on YouTube can offer me. So there's one, there's one step. There's that oh, there might be something more than what I'm doing. And this isn't about saying you're being a bad parent or you're doing it wrong. It's about saying, what more can I do? What's the next step? What's the next awareness? What's the next learning? And for some parents, the personal development journey might be too painful for them, because there's a lot of emotions we need to explore. There's a lot of thinking. There's a lot of situations that we need to explore. So it's that gaining more knowledge that there's more out there other than just the strategies behind, you know, behavior management and everything else. It's about, so the first step would probably be reading a book, watching a video, listening to a podcast, just being curious. That's an external thing. An internal thing would be, I wonder why I just responded to, or I wonder why I just reacted to my child that way. Did I react to my child's behavior, or did I react to what my child was saying? Being curious and starting to ask yourself those questions would be the next step. And that the curious question of, I wonder what's going on for my child right now. If my child is not doing that to hurt or harm or upset me, why is my child doing that? What is my child trying to say to me right now? Those questions that are easy questions to ask. Who does my child need to be? Who does my child need me to be right now? Those simple questions, they really just, they help you take to the next level and help expand your thinking and help you personalize that trigger point. Because the child's just being who the child needs and wants to be in that moment. You're reacting to that. The child's not telling you, the child's not making you be upset. The child's just saying it needs help or it wants support without the right words. You know, children are navigating, and we need to be the ones to help navigate that. So those curious questions are the, you know, a really great starting point to know that there is more. There's more to you than you was there.
Those questions are very deep. Like for us, it's are okay, but for some people, it's like what? And but anyway, I know you can help them. So where parents can find you?
They can find me Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube. No, not YouTube. Instagram. Yeah, our website, which I think are all going to be in the links below, aren't they?
Yes, I will add everything, the link below, the description below. So anybody who wants to connect with Lesley or reach out to her, ask for help. She's so willing to help you guys. If you know anybody who is dealing with kids, or to your eyes, it's like their parenting is not quite right, as well, share this video. They will be so grateful to receive it. And thank you so much for being here, Lesley. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. It's been awesome.
Bye, guys. See you next time. Bye, Lesley.
Bye.